Alright guys, welcome to my house tour part 10, the master bath. Y'all remember several years ago when I painted my bathroom floors? Well, this was always meant to be a temporary makeover. Some of you loved it and some of you really hated it. I also stenciled them. This took me forever. It literally took me all night, partially because I wanted to get it done and partially because I had to drive my mother-in-law to the emergency room in the middle of it. I never wanted to see a stencil again after that. So anyways, here we are a few years later, and yes, I am busting it up. With as many people that told me that this was a terrible idea and that it would never last, I'm actually surprised with how many people were upset that I tore it up. Anyways, I had a really hard time tearing it up, and when I went away on a trip, since I'm a flight attendant, my husband is amazing, and he tore it all up for me. This was way harder than I even anticipated. I did try to get the mortar off too, and I was using this little thing, and it was back-breaking. So I tried to go rent one of these from Home Depot, and that did absolutely nothing. So I returned it and did the best I could with the small one. Here I'm laying the tile on top of the uncoupling membrane that I laid down. That membrane just helps with waterproofing and it helps your tiles from not cracking. This hexagon tile was not the easiest to lay down, but I got it all down. It's not completely perfect. I am not a professional. I'm just doing the best I can. I'm using the color driftwood for the grout and I loved it. Look how pretty that turned out. Next up, the bathtub area. Along with the temporary floors that I painted, I also temporarily painted this tile and it actually turned out really good. I also ripped some boards down from plywood underlayment that's really thin and used it as shiplap. I got it all painted and then we put it on the ceiling and the back wall behind the bathtub. I thought that was a fun touch. I also added a piece of plywood underlayment to the front of the bathtub and sealed it, and I stained it brown and hated it, so I ended up painting it Accessible Beige by Sherwin-Williams, and then I added these trim pieces, and it turned out so cute. I love that box trim there. I have this beige color running all throughout my house. And then fast forward to just a few months ago, and I ripped it all out. Instead of trying to pry the tile off of the drywall, I just removed all the drywall, and it was a lot easier that way. I also removed all the shiplap, and as a new DIYer, I glued and nailed all the shiplap onto the walls and ceiling, so it created a lot of damage. Looking back, I should have only used brad nails. Anyways, I got this drywall all fixed so that way I could tile. This was a super exciting part. I chose this Zellage tile because it's beautiful and it's handmade and it's meant to look uneven, so it's great for beginners. I decided to go all the way up that back wall and surround the window with it, and I think that was a beautiful touch. It does look a little bit rough before you grout it, but once it's grouted, it looks absolutely beautiful. It was exactly the look I was going for, and I couldn't stop staring at it. Next is the vanity area. When we first moved in, these were cherry wood cabinets, and I painted them. I actually painted these with regular wall paint, and I'm really surprised with how well they held up. And don't freak out on me if you're a wood lover. These are actually MDF cabinets. They're not real cherry wood. Anyways, my husband and our friend helped get that countertop off because it was really heavy. And then I was able to remove the middle cabinet, and my husband helped me remove the side cabinets. The plan here was to build my own floating vanity, and this is what it's looking like so far. I thought it was so beautiful, but then I had to take it apart because walls are never straight, and the walls came in on the front, and we couldn't slide it in, even though I allowed a little bit of wiggle room. But I only had to partially take it apart, luckily. I did decide to go ahead and finish tiling the bathroom before I put the vanity in because I feel like it would have been easier than squeezing underneath it to do this. This part didn't take too long, and then I was able to get the vanity in at an angle. I have it sitting on these 1x2 pieces that I secured to the studs, and then I was able to put it back together, and then we put the back of it attached to the studs as well. I wouldn't stand on it, but it's pretty sturdy. The wood I'm using is red oak, and the stain color is Spice Brown by Duracell. Since this is plywood, I did have to iron on some edge banding, and I got that stained. I doubled up the thickness here so it looked like the thickness of a real countertop. And for everybody that freaks out that there's wood in the bathroom, don't worry, I sealed it like a million times. And then I got the rest of that tile grouted, and then it was time to make the backsplash for the vanity. This is a 1x6 piece of red oak that I'm routing. I used brad nails to attach it to the wall, and then I went around the edges with clear caulk, and I got it all sealed as well. Look at those decorative edges, aren't they so pretty? See, I told you, lots and lots of layers of the sealer. That way the wood will be nice and protected. My handy-dandy live-in plumber got the sinks installed for me because that is not my area of expertise. And I'm not one to waste space, so I'm making drawers to go around the plumbing. This was a first for me, and they worked amazing. Here I was about to head out to a wedding, but I could not wait to get the fronts of these installed. The drawer fronts are made of leftover pieces of that 1x6 I used as a backsplash. These drawer pulls are so pretty. They're an antique gold color, and I think they go perfect in here. I've always loved the look of exposed pipes, but that white color is not going to do. So I primed it, and then I used rub and buff to make it look metal. I know a wood bathroom vanity isn't everybody's cup of tea, but I'm in love with it. Now next up, to address that back wall. My live-in plumber is also my live-in electrician. I'm using a pole wrap type material to go on that back wall to cover the glue marks that I had previously and also to add some texture. We got it painted and got the new vanity lights installed, and they're so pretty. I'm also really loving arches right now, and I found these arched mirrors on Amazon and think they're gorgeous. I had a little tiny piece of that 1x6 oak left over, so I made a little plant stand with it. Then I needed a place to hang our hand towels, and I found these cute little hooks on Amazon as well. I'm just loving how this bathroom is coming together. When we first moved into this house, this water closet door swung out into the bathroom and it drove me crazy. So my husband made me this wooden one, but it ended up warping and it's more of a farmhouse style and I was trying to get away from that. I saw these doors on Pinterest and fell in love, so I decided to recreate them using MDF. The reason I'm using MDF is because I knew it wouldn't warp like the wood did. And guess what? It hasn't. I painted it and sealed it and it's been just fine. Also, my bathroom doesn't get that humid because it's pretty big. Here, I'm priming it, and then the paint color I'm using is Accessible Beige by Sherwin-Williams. As I said earlier, this color runs all throughout my house. It's such a pretty beige color. I got the door trimmed out because as I remodel rooms in my house, I'd replace all the door frames for a more craftsman style. And guys, MDF is heavy, so my husband and our friend got it all installed for me. You could see earlier the back of the door wasn't painted because I had plans for that. A few months after building it, my husband took it down for me so I could add wallpaper. This wallpaper is the same kind that's on the ceiling of my master closet right there. I also got that header painted right there. That way when the door is closed, it's pretty from the back too. I installed this long skinny handle in the color antique gold. And this is how it turned out. What do you think? Would you use MDF for a door? Now, one of my most popular projects in this bathroom is this little toilet paper cabinet that I made from scraps. It's just wide enough to hold toilet paper so it doesn't get in the way at all. And look how cute it is! I love scrap wood projects, that way I get rid of those scraps sitting in my garage. I cut the pieces all down to size and then I put it together. It's basically just a square. I evenly spaced out the shelves, but because of the type of hinges I'm using, that meant the doors are not the same size, but really you can't even tell. I got them installed just to make sure they fit before I got any further on them. Once I knew they were going to work, I routed the outside and then I added these little trim pieces to the inside and then I sprayed them all. This color is the same color as the walls. It's Alabaster by Sherwin-Williams. Once the doors dried, I got them put back on and then I installed some handles and look how cute this thing turned out. It was such a simple little project and it allows so much more storage now. We usually buy those gigantic bags of toilet paper, so between the guest bathroom and this one, we don't have to store the toilet paper anywhere else. Now, one of my first DIY projects ever were these floating shelves behind my toilet right here. I just used 1x2s and then I cut down some thin plywood and then put a 1x3 on the front of it to make them look solid. Then I added a bunch of 1x2 poplar to that back wall to give that wood slat effect. This is one project that I didn't change for this bathroom renovation, but I had to remove the bottom slats because the flooring was going to be a little bit thicker, so I'd have to replace the baseboards and cut these slats down a little bit. But I got the baseboard installed and then the slats put back on. Next up, I'm removing these shelves because I've got bigger plans. The original plan was to expand the shower and tear down that wall, but I decided to make a built-in armoire instead. Mostly because I went with no storage underneath the vanity, so I needed to keep the storage here. I got the cabinet put together and then I got the base made and got that installed in the area. Lots of people question why I built a cabinet to go in here instead of just creating drawers on the drywall, and it's because drywall is never straight. And I didn't feel like having to use spacers and all kinds of things to get the drawers to work good. I'd rather just build a square cabinet and be done with it. My husband had to help me with the top part because man, that thing was heavy and huge. I used 3/4 inch cabinet grade plywood for this. And could I have just put doors on the drywall for the top part? Sure, but I wanted this to look like a piece of furniture, not like a cheap DIY project. But you do what you want in your house. I got the shelves installed and then I made a face frame for it, and this is also red oak. Now this isn't going to be open shelves on the top. I'm making doors, and like I said, I'm loving arches right now, so I'm attempting arches out of this red oak that was not cheap. And moment of truth, They fit! I was so excited for this part. I'm staining everything spiced brown like the vanity. I'm making my own drawers. These really aren't that hard to make. I just use wood glue and brad nails to put them together. And here I was attempting to get inside of it to install the drawer slides, but that wasn't going to work. I did get them all installed, but I ended up breaking the middle drawer slides and had to order some new ones. While I waited for the new ones to come in, I went ahead and installed the doors, and I had a little bit of a problem. It looked like one piece was a little tiny bit warped, but I think it was just the way I put the hinges on. And here I'm using my feet to put the drawer fronts on. I believe this is 1x10 red oak. It's the same pieces that I used to make the arch part. That was not a cheap piece of wood. And then we got the Cremone bolts installed, which is one of my favorite parts. They're beautiful. And because Tyler has really long arms, he helped me fix that middle drawer slide when the new slides came in. These are soft close and they're amazing. And my original plan was reeded glass for the doors, but then I found this plastic stuff they use for greenhouses, and that's what I went with. It's the exact look I was going for, and I didn't have to get custom glass made. And remember that damage that I had on the ceiling? Well, this is my plan for it. The same pole wrap type material that I used behind the vanity, I used on the ceiling, and I'm painting all that alabaster by Sherwin-Williams. I got the room all plasticed off and ready for my paint sprayer. And you see that thing on my head right here? That is a shoe cover, but it fit my head, so that's what I used to cover my hair. And look how good it turned out. I got all the plastic taken down, and then I went back and cleaned up some drips of where I sprayed too heavily. And then dang it, I realized I got some white paint on the very edge of my built-in armoire. That sucked, but some paint remover was able to remove it. Sadly, the paint sprayer did not get all the way in the grooves like I was hoping, so I got a really thick napped roller and went over it again. And then I had to take this tiny little paintbrush to get in all the grooves around the edges. That was so tedious, but look how pretty it is. I think it was totally worth it. And then next up was the biggest and most time-consuming project of them all, the shower. I removed the tile, and I was planning to tile the floor, so we needed to get this plastic piece removed, and I didn't realize they were concreted down. But luckily, my husband came to the rescue again when I was on a trip and got it all taken up and cleaned up for me so I could get started with the rest of it. I removed all the drywall. I had planned on tiling the whole ceiling and the walls and everything. I got the frame along the front put together, and what did I tell you about arches? I'm a little bit obsessed right now, so of course the shower had to be arched as well. I hadn't installed that arch yet, so I needed to come up here and remove the ceiling, and then this happened.
Ah! Really? Oh, hello.
But luckily, drywall wasn't that heavy, so I didn't get hurt. I did have a lot to clean up, though. My husband got the ceiling put up for me because I'm really short, and he also did the arch, and look how strong it is. He can even do a pull-up on it. Now, here's the part that a lot of men get their panties in a wad because they don't think I should use mold-resistant drywall instead of cement board. Now, I have this empty space behind my shelving, so I decided to put a skeleton in there for somebody to find years down the road. That space wasn't really usable for much more. For the arch, I had to score that piece of drywall until it was bendable. Then I had to cut around all of the plumbing, and luckily I got it perfect. And one last look at that little guy before he gets put away forever, or at least for a long time. Some people said I should have left him some whiskey and some playing cards, and no, dang it, missed opportunity. As for that lower niche, it's to have somewhere to put your foot when you shave. And this is what it's like doing DIY projects with your husband. I got some more drywall cut for you. What are you doing?
It looks like I'm pooping, but I'm not.
Is this what men
You were
do?
gone like 10 minutes.
Is this what I had to recut?
I got bored. But bring me some drywall.
Here.
Come on.
We got all the drywall installed, and then it was time for the waterproofing. This is the reason I wasn't worried about using drywall instead of cement board. I really hate working with cement board. I'm using the Schluter waterproofing system. You just mortar it into place, and then you mortar all the corners and the edges, and it has strips that go along there too. Trust me, this is super waterproofed. We even extra waterproof the niches. The niches are Schluter system too. Tyler stepped in and helped me here because he was ready to have his shower back. We were using our guest bathroom, and he's 6'4", so he had to duck to get underneath the shower head, and he was tired of it. We got the walls and the ceiling waterproofed, and then it was time to put the flooring in and do the plumbing. This is a Schluter pan that has a natural slope to it. All right, moment of truth.
You nervous?
I am nervous. We plugged the drain and poured a bunch of water in it and then let it sit to make sure there was going to be no leaks. And guess what? No leaks, so it was time to tile. This took me forever. Tiling is so much work. But this is what I got done day 1. You don't need to use spacers with this kind of tile, but I did use them in a few spots just to make sure that the rows stayed level. These tiles are all different since they're handmade, but I feel like that's what gives them the charm. And this is how I cut around these pieces. I marked it with a Sharpie and then took it out to my wet saw. I made a whole bunch of tiny cuts until that area was mostly removed, and then I smoothed it out with a blade. And then I brought it back in to see if it fit. And look at that, it fits perfect. I'm having a plate go around this, so it doesn't have to be exact. And then it was time to tile these niches. I think each one of these took me about an hour and a half to 2 hours. But once I was done with the niches, the rest of that wall went really fast. And here's a clip of exactly how I did it. I 45'd the edges, so that way they would connect like this, and I just put them together with mortar in between. And then it was time to tile the arch. This took me a full 8 hours to do this whole arch because I had to 45 all of those pieces too. But then it was time for the fun part. Not really. Grouting sucks, but it was the part that made the shower look finished. I started with the hardest part, which was the ceiling, and then I worked my way down from there. I mean, look at what a big difference that the grout makes. Look at the inside of these niches and how rough they look, and then now they're grouted, and look how much more smooth they look. I love finishing work. Now, for everybody who's so worried about keeping the shower clean, don't worry, it'll be fine. I have a cleaning tool just for the shower. Now, some of that waterproofing membrane was still showing, so I used joint compound and rubbed over it, and then when that dried, I went over with texture. Now, we did run into a small problem. This plate right here was too small to cover up the tile. We didn't realize that top one was smaller than the one on the bottom, but luckily we were able to order one online that was similar and it worked perfect. I picked out this shower system from Signature Hardware and it's beautiful. It even comes with one of those spray wands, and we added a water filter to the shower head. Now this part just happened a couple days ago and I'm so excited. My shower door came in. We got lucky and my neighbor is a shower door installer and he hooked us up with this beautiful shower door and him and Tyler installed it. And of course I had to change out the light. I found this ceramic one on Pinterest and fell in love. Now are you ready for the before and afters? This bathroom is everything I've been dreaming up for the last few years and I'm so excited it's finally done. I feel like it's a little bit of antique mixed with a little bit of modern. What do you think the style is? I can't quite place it. My style is so eclectic. I'm just so happy to get rid of that builder look it was before. Now it looks so much more custom and unique. Also, I forgot to tell you about that bath tray. I built it myself and actually have the woodworking plans for it available in my Etsy shop. Also, I didn't tell you, those wood slats, I literally used construction adhesive to glue on the wall because I was scared of hitting a water line with a brad nailer. Doesn't it feel so much more cozy now? This picture was after my temporary renovation I did before. I'm still shocked that that painted tile lasted so long. It was literally in perfect condition after 3 years. All the tile came from Riad Tile, and their stuff is so beautiful. If you'd like the link to anything that you saw in this bathroom, just head to the description and I'll leave it there for you. I'm not even sure how long this bathroom took me. I know it took me months. And it was so much work, some of it backbreaking, but it was completely worth it to me. And a tip for keeping that glass clean, use Rain-X. The Cremone bolts here were a must for me, and they came from Signature Hardware. They actually came long enough to put on a regular sized door. And with the drawers below, we have so much more usable storage now. And this is how the ceiling came out. I think it added the perfect amount of subtle texture. I even installed these glass doorknobs for a more antique look in all the doors throughout my house. What do you think? Would you DIY a bathroom renovation like this? Or would you rather hire it out? Oh, and I did forget to mention these shelves. The corbels are red oak that I got from Home Depot, and then I used the same red oak boards I used throughout the bathroom. I got them all stained and put together, we hung them on the wall, and then got them styled. Now I feel like I'm in a completely different room when using this bathroom. Tyler says it has more of a spa feel to it, which I'm super flattered by. Now, on to my next project. I'm going to be remodeling my pantry to make it more usable.